see three phases of the pharma ecosystem. And I'm borrowing from one study here. Pharma 1, Pharma 2, Pharma 3. We can talk about versions. We talk about Pharma 1, I think we're talking about the period maybe 60s to 80s. Pharma 2 is the period 80s to 2000. And Pharma 3 is version 3, which is 2000 upwards. How has the ecosystem changed in this period, and what kind of response is expected from us is what this conference is all about, with a special reference to digital. Look at the first. First was the business model. The entire effort was inward looking, blockbuster drugs. Inward looking continued when you looked at moving from what are we doing to how are we going to do it, increasing effectiveness, increasing efficiency, finding new revenue streams. And suddenly, come 2010, we are looking at outwards. The entire effort is not result. Result is too narrow terminology. We are looking at overall healthcare outcomes. That's how the ecosystem is forcing pharma to look at ourselves. The core focus area was R&D, moved to expanded geographic reach, branded generics in India, generics worldwide. But today, we are looking at patients and payers. Payers will not be so relevant today in India. Insurance is still such a small fragment of our ecosystem. We have borrowed a lot from non-pharma. Pharma is not still very mature. However mature we are, we always remain slightly behind other industries in terms of marketing practices. So seamless, continuous contact is what's required today to get less than wafer thin loyalty. And if digital, if not digital, who else can give it to us? Let's look at what's happening in digital India. Very quick numbers. 80 million people. Mobile driving internet. India will overtake US in the internet usage. Obviously, they have large population. Second only to China. So if we do not use in our marketing language, in our marketing communication, dealing with customers, internet and digital, we are obsolete. And obsolescence. Healthcare professionals in India. We talk about predominantly urban India, but it's seeping very deep. 75 and 90% of healthcare professionals today are digitally literate. So the seamless communication, continuous communication from industry to healthcare professional, to patient, to paramedic. That's what we are in India for digital. The digital India is for us. Apps for patient education for doctors, apps for paramedic education, apps for patient tracking. It's a very, very exciting digital world out there. And 20 years from now, I wonder what digital world, what's the next phase for digital world will be. We talk about internet revolution, then talk about digital world. What is the next language? I'm very anxious to know what that language will be. And that language will define what you guys are going to do.
The point with which I want to begin is that the pharma business is today also extremely traditional in nature, at least in India. And from an Indian perspective, we have rarely seen anything change over the last 4 decades or maybe more. And the way things were done in the past are largely the way things are done today. So look at the way technology has built up opportunities for people across the world. That somehow doesn't sync. So we are looking at an age of hyper-information. We're looking at an age where big data is a big word today. You see patients being able to really do a lot more for themselves than they were ever able to do in the past. The point is not to go rebashing here. The point is to say that pharma as an industry is really not able to communicate information the way it should if it uses the traditional way of talking to customers, which is the medical way. How does every single customer become important to you? The answer to that partly lies in digital. Now, this is not a panacea, obviously. It doesn't take away all your problems. It's not the solution to every problem that you have. But it's a medium that makes life much more simpler. If the idea of doing business is to serve the individual needs of every individual customer. So today, this is about choice. It's about interactivity. It's about being able to choose what you want to consume and to reject what you don't. And that is what adds to complexity of business. It could add to the complexity of business because the customer becomes very extremely choosy, but it creates opportunities for us if we really want to serve that customer in a way that helps us differentiate from competition. And you use things like webcasts, you use things like emails, you use things like health portals, etc. to get that doctor onto information that you want that doctor to consume and in the manner that the doctor wants to consume. This is basically a start of a journey. It's a new thing. You're moving from a push and product driven area, which essentially we are more comfortable with. Pushing messages, pushing product promotion and everything from my side to something which is dialogue based. And that requires a complete change in the state of mind. It requires a complete change in thinking. But what it does is it provides flexibility and it provides a tremendous amount of opportunity, which I think everybody should really think through very well.
So our communication networks that we have now are not just a two-way, because communication can never be unidirectional. It is bidirectional, and that is the essence of it. And obviously now it's not just a two-way, but it's a highway, because you have so many people talking at the same time, not just, to one another, but to many people. The best part of this highway is that people are not aimlessly wandering. It's not a mall. It's not a place where people go and just look around. They are looking for solutions. They are going in a single direction. And if they don't find a solution within 30 seconds or maybe even faster, they are not going to stay on this highway for a long time. They are going to find an alternate road for them. It is very personal. We feel that the internet means that everybody can look at each other, we are spying, but that's not so. You look at a person with his phone, and that's a very personal connection that he has. Or when he's with his laptop, it's a very personal, it's a very closed world. And of course, let's look at pharma to HCPs. What kind of communication works? And I think all kind of communication works. It can be very specific. So we had examples. We looked at GSK talking about specific diseases. COPD, yes. We know that this kind of communication also works. You talk about diseases or some fantastic initiatives around medical information. The key to all of these is that they have to be easy to find. If you look at some of the domain names or some of the site names, they are actually easy to find. It is very easy to navigate through the site. So these sites are good if you can navigate through them. They are specific. One of the good things about PubMed, which a lot of doctors like, is because I can personalize PubMed to what I want. If I want, I can look at clinical trials first, or I can look at reviews, or I can look at whatever I want. It is flexible. And that is another essence of some of these websites. And that's what makes people likely to return to this site. And therefore, when I'm designing a communication for doctors, I would always want to look at why would they come back, and what is the hope that is going to make people come back to these. We always fear off-label talk. We always fear adverse events. We always fear that, these are all the wrong things. But let's look at the opportunity. We always talk about clinical trials in the domain of maybe 10,000 or 20,000 patients required. If you have a network like that of 2 lakh people or 2 lakh doctors, out of which 10,000 doctors say, I treated one patient of this condition with this drug, you suddenly have a clinical trial of 10,000 patients. Now, whether we can use that, whether we can convert that into a clinical study, is that the essence of a registry? I don't know, and I don't have the answers to that. So if you're honest, if you're good, and if you give the right content, people do want to go onto your website. The whole idea about apps is that it has to answer the question, do I really need this? So through all the social media and through all the questions that you ask, if you come to the conclusion that yes, the doctors or the patients need this, then that is the very essence that you have of an app. We know that social media and a lot of it has been talked about, but let's, the most important thing here is we are talking about people who think alike. How many of us can really say that of those 100 doctors that I meet or a medical rep, can I categorize them into 10 doctors of this kind, this kind, this kind, this kind? That I really can. Here is a medium which gives you the answer. That way you have a site or you have a community where people really think alike. And you can tap onto that and take advantage of that. Digital communication itself cannot be a standalone. It has to be a part of your bigger strategy. What you choose is actually secondary. If I want to reach out to maybe 100,000 people, I can use SMSs. That is digital technology after all. If I want to meet those 50 LA replacement surgeons, there's a different technology that you can use. It all depends on what you are going to aim at. And finally, ROI. Can I guarantee or can any of us guarantee success? I guess then that person would have been on the Forbes list. Positive outcomes cannot be proven unless we really do it. So unless we try, we are not going to get any of these outcomes that we desire.
I think the key word here is game techniques. We're not actually going to build games, we're not putting you all into gaming companies, but we are using the learnings from games and then making that and using that to make other mundane, boring processes more engaging. Gamification is more of an approach. It's not exactly technological innovation. It's an approach, it's a process. We need to design a system that is based around the user and that is fun. And that should always be the primary goal of gamification, to make something fun. If it's not fun, it's not going to work. Just adding points, badges and leaderboards to something and saying, oh, you gamified it, doesn't work. It has to start with the concept of making something fun. And implementing it correctly will of course require a long-term, serious commitment.